An elk comes in with its head back screaming, 800-pound animal just appears out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he's standing in front of you and you have a split second to draw, guess the range, arrange it, and execute a good shot.
Damn, man, they look like a wild beast when they come in like that.
I was 21 when I killed my first elk. And my son last season was 21. And when he shot his bull, we were walking up on it and he turned around, he's like, "Dad, this is the 9th elk I've killed."
When we take our kids out, they get the creme de la creme. They didn't have to go through the struggle and the freaking be like Mr. Magoo in the woods like I was when I was young.
That's what it's all about, giving them opportunities that we didn't have. And when it becomes your own kids that have that passion and you see them be successful in something that you're passionate about, I can't imagine as a parent that there's anything greater.
It seems like, though, when it comes to the sausage making, which is the legislature, there's always these unintended consequences that occur. And wildlife is so dynamic and it's very difficult to predict it. And I'll give you a little personal anecdote. In 2011 or 2012, in Texas, I had a little bit of influence with the legislature because I was in the oil and gas business. And I had been noodling since I was a teenager when I was up in Oklahoma and a Native American guy showed me how to catch catfish. And I noticed whenever I would pull out these big catfish that the people on the shore their mind would be blown, you know? And so I got really into that, and I would take people, and we used to do it in Texas when it was illegal, and it was great when it was illegal. We'd go at night and we were pulling out monsters, man. We had sea monster after sea monster that we were pulling out from these boat ramps because no one else did it. So my wife at the time got pregnant, and it was our second child, and it was a boy. And I thought, I can't, man, it's a slippery slope if I take my son to do something illegal. And so I lobbied the legislature. I had a bill introduced and it was illegal in Texas, so I had a bill introduced, and it was to make hand fishing legal in the state of Texas. And so I went and testified before both houses, and I got unanimous votes and got Rick Perry to sign it. And from that, I ended up with a show on Animal Planet for a while. But what I didn't account for, and why it was a mistake, is I wasn't greedy. I never, rarely, about once a year, would I take one of these big fish and skin it and turn it into food. But what happened is once people were allowed to be in the water, they started taking all these catfish of this age, and they would take way above the limits, and they just picked it clean. And so you have this strata of fish of a certain age and a certain size, which are your big producers, and they took them. And so for me, I feel like that was a mistake. And it makes me wonder, when we have people that aren't wildlife biologists that do these things for reasons like I did, how we're affecting nature. And so I really want to encourage people. You've got to leave these ballot measures, and we've got to find a way, which there's a big question on whether or not they're even constitutional. And we've really got to address this, and someone's got to fight it, and it's got to be hunters and fishermen that do it. Because if we let people that are stuck in traffic all day, that like wildlife shows and like Disney, if we let them make decisions, we're going to end up with a lot of unintended consequences that are going to result in negative impacts on wildlife. I wanted to kind of shift. So what is it that is fun for you that keeps you doing this? Because you've won so many times, right? You've established yourself as well as anyone can in this field. And so you're kind of the guy that goes up to the elk calling competition, looks around and says, I wonder who's going to be second. So what is it that keeps you coming back? Is it the desire to keep growing, or does this keep you well versed and practice so that when you go out in the field you can execute against the opportunities? What's in that drive that keeps you doing it?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I'm a competitive person, so I played college basketball. I'm just competitive by nature, and so I think for me, elk calling it's kind of like underwater BB stacking. There's not a whole lot of people when you really break it down, but it gives me an opportunity to go and compete and get that. You're getting up on a stage in front of your peers, and there's nerves and all of that, but the real contest for me is hunting. That's where I really compete. And for me, the joy of that has become hunting with my children. And I'm a very selfish person. I think a lot of us are, especially competitive. We were thinking about what can I do to improve? How am I going to, kids when they're young, especially, you kind of look and it's like, they're going to slow me down. I'm not going to be nearly as successful or as effective if I involve them. But involving my children from a young age. So my oldest is 22, my daughter's 20, my youngest son is 18. They are my greatest and most cherished hunting partners. And the sacrifice and the investment I put in when they were young has translated to them having a passion like I do, and them being able to be alongside me when some awesome things have happened, and now me having opportunity to be alongside them when they've done some amazing things. So the calling contest side of it, it's an opportunity to see friends. It's an opportunity to compete and scratch that competitive itch. And there's no doubt that it has opened doors for me. Being able to win a calling contest, you think, oh, wow, that's, cool. You get a duffel bag full of some gear probably, and maybe a little cash. But it's allowed me to completely have the lifestyle I have, to be able to have a business that focuses on elk hunting and elk calling. And if nothing else, it's given me a little bit of credibility that, hey, he's got a title of a world champion elk caller and he's successful as an elk hunter. It's opened doors that I've been able to create online courses and do training and things where, there's a lot of people, there are a lot of people who are just as good at elk calling and way better at elk hunting than I am. And just being able to be involved in the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation's contests for 40 years now has given me opportunity to do what I love to do, which is elk hunting, and also a platform to be able to spread the message of passion, but mostly conservation. And we talk about hunting, and somebody from the outside looking at it saying hunters are killing elk. My greatest desire and goal is to grow the population of elk so that the next generations have just as good of opportunities as we do. So hunting is not a way that I'm looking at it going, I just want to go and kill all the animals I can. I'm utilizing it to hopefully preserve and conserve what we have and make it better.
Hey man, if hunting with kids is wrong, I don't want to be right. And if there's a way to be to build a kingdom in heaven, I think it would have to be spreading joy to kids. And I like taking my son out, and he's hunted Africa 4 times. For his birthday, I'm taking him on his 5th. We're going to complete his big 5, and then next year we're going to complete his Royal Slam on turkeys. And it's wild when it comes to animals. I'm like you. I'm kind of selfish about it. I don't want anyone infringing on what I'm doing. I get you get laser focused. Something happens. I don't think people realize what happens to you when you're hunting, and especially once you kind of start figuring things out, is there's an internal compulsion for you to succeed and for you to go get that animal. And when you're in pursuit of something, your instincts take over. You become sharper. You have heightened senses. And the second you see that in your kid, oh, you talk about a transfer of enthusiasm. It just, you just light up. And, I get what's now a challenge that I have found for guys like you, or guys like me. I have some friends that are some really good hunters, is when we take our kids out, right? They get the creme de la creme right? They didn't have to go through the struggle and the freaking be like Mr. Magoo in the woods like I was when I was young. And so they end up getting a lot of experiences that they otherwise wouldn't had they on their own. And do you understand what I'm saying?
100%. I was 21 when I killed my first elk. I struggled for 9 years hunting elk every year with a bow before I killed my first elk, 21. And my son last season was 21. And when he shot his bull, a beautiful 7x8 bull, we were walking up on it and he turned around. He's like, "Dad, this is the 9th elk I've killed."
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
You're spoiled. You are so spoiled.
Yeah.
And, I think but at the same time, that's what it's all about. Giving them opportunities that we didn't have, giving them opportunities to be successful. I love to see other people be successful. I love to see the passion for the outdoors and especially for bow hunting in other people. And when it becomes your own kids that have that passion and you see them be successful in something that you're passionate about, I can't imagine as a parent that there's anything greater.
Yeah, I love taking other people's kids and other people, and I love it. I've never been jealous of the success of other people. You got to count your friend's good fortune as a blessing in life, and I think that's a very, very good lesson. Now, so to pick your brain a little bit, when a guy's getting started out elk hunting, it's his first elk season. One of the other things that's more difficult for people to grow and experience, especially in your field, is the access. It's more difficult to get tags, right? There's a supply and there's a demand, and those things are in conflict. Now, but if a guy's lucky enough to get a tag and it's his first elk, what are you telling him to do? What does he need before he goes out? What should he be doing to prepare himself?
Yeah, and that's really when I started. I created an online course called the University of Elk Hunting back in 2016, 2017. And that really was the goal with it, is to be able to provide information to the people who maybe had never elk hunted before or had never really tasted success. Because once somebody's successful, they're going to become passionate and they're going to want to protect it. And if somebody goes out hunting 10 times in a row and they don't even get into elk, they're probably going to find another hobby, because that's all it is at that point, is a hobby and not a passion. But, there's so many factors that go into it. There's an intimidation factor that a lot of people look at elk hunting and say, this is just a bucket list. This is just something I want to do someday, but they don't actively pursue it because there are so many barriers to entry. Elk live in tough country. So physically, somebody coming from 800 feet in elevation and going to Colorado at 12,000 feet, they're going to have a pretty poor experience just physically. Not to mention, it's almost everything's vertical, straight up and straight down. Gear, you get up there and you've got swings in temperatures from 30 degrees to 80 degrees and afternoon thunderstorms and all of that. That can be discouraging. And then just being able to get out and find elk and interact with elk. There's just so much, not to mention what you started with, which is just getting the tag in general. And when I created the online course, I did a full section, a breakdown of every Western state and how you can get tags in those states. And I think at the time there were 6 states that you could readily get over-the-counter tags in for elk. It's down to 1 now, and that's even questionable. So, Colorado has reduced it. It used to be over-the-counter, open doors, anybody come in, no quota. Now it's a draw, and they have a quota on it. Idaho is going to a draw this year. They've called it over the counter, but it's really been a draw. You have to get assigned a random number, and based on that number is when you get to look and see if there's any tags left that you're interested in. Montana's a draw for non-residents. Wyoming's a draw for non-residents. So it's really tough to get that tag. But once you get the tag, and there's still opportunities, it's not like you have to wait 20 years to go elk hunting. But once you get it, I think top 3 things are: be in shape. And no matter how good a shape you think you're in, you're not in good enough shape to effectively hunt elk in the mountains. So spend time on that. Once you get out there, wind, thermals, scent are so important. And it's not a matter of putting on some scent lock suit and walking around to being scent free. You're sweating, you're leaving an imprint of scent out there. So paying attention to which direction the wind is going, that's probably the biggest mistake I see people make. Even experienced hunters, they think that they're going to be able to fool an elk's nose, and an elk just knows danger when it smells it, and you won't fool it. So paying attention to the wind. And then the other thing is being realistic about your expectations. You probably first time aren't going to go out and shoot a 360-inch bull with a bow on public land in a general season type of a hunt. And so I think a lot of people go out there and think, I'd be just happy just being able to shoot a nice 6-point bull my first time out. It's probably not realistic when you consider that there are a lot of people who have been doing this a long time, and the average success rate is still about 10%. So
it's because they think that because of videos like the ones you put on the web, man.
And we try to portray, and that's really one of the things we try to portray is the reality of it. We show every day of the hunt. So we do day by day series. So you can see there are days we aren't getting into anything. We are messing up and failing 10 times for every chance that we get to be successful. So we do try to show that reality of it. But I think TV, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s it was just all kill shots. You go on there and all people wanted to see was something die. And you do get kind of a false sense of reality of, I can go out there, and if I can spend 4 or 5 days, if these clowns can shoot an elk, I can shoot an elk, and that's not the reality. I think a lot of times people put too much emphasis on gear, and they spend all of their money and all of their energy on getting gear, thinking gear is gonna make the difference. But at the end of the day, I think you as an individual are the greatest piece of gear that you have, both your mind and your physical body. And I think spending more time on developing those is probably the most important thing when it comes to, once you get an elk tag, spend more time on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people really focus on this gear. And if you guys look back at when all the big mule deer were killed in New Mexico and Colorado, and a lot of the big elk, guys were wearing jeans and flannel shirts. Like QU wasn't on the market, and it wasn't Trey Chic. You went hunting, these guys were doing it with freaking Model 70 30-06s, simple 3x9 scopes or less. And so correct me if I'm wrong, and this is just like, if you're going in the mountains, spend some time on a stair mill with your pack until the straps become comfortable. Because if you're carrying a big pack and you haven't walked on the mountains with it, those first few days when you get used to the straps, it's going to bother you. So get up there, put your time in on the stair mill, get in shape. Keep the sun to your back and the wind in your face, man. And do your best to do that. And then what I see a lot is it was much easier when you and I were young. Shells were cheaper, equipment was cheaper, and we didn't know how good it was. My dad, when we would do farm work in Missouri, we moved from Missouri to Texas when I was like 8, but we kept our family farm. We had to spend the summers up there working. My dad paid us in 22 shells, and we thought we were robbing the bastard. But you have to spend a lot of time with your weapons. And those opportunities are so difficult to produce. Yeah, and really, it's always kind of like Mother Nature gives you a gift when it happens, and you got to execute against that opportunity. And shooting your gun or shooting your bow a lot will greatly improve your chances. I've seen when people shooting an elk with a bow that you've called in that comes busting in. You talk about intimidation. Until someone has experienced that, I mean, I've been involved in elephant charges, and there's really no different in the feeling when that elk comes busting in there, and now someone says shoot it with a bow at 60 yards. I don't care if you're the best bow shot in the world. If you've never felt that intensity and then tried to be a marksman in that moment, you're going to have hell. And I see a lot that people they spend a lot of time on gear, not a lot of time on practicing, not a lot of time on getting shape. And I would encourage you to do all those things.
Yeah, I remember I missed an elk one year, And the guy I was hunting with, I missed it and went back discouraged. Like you say, you get so many or so few opportunities that when you get an opportunity and then miss the shot, it's so deflating. And I just went back and said, I missed. And he's like, what happened? Were did you hold on it? What was it? I couldn't even remember, because of that adrenaline coming in. So if you aren't practicing a ton, you're not going to have that muscle memory. Now I shoot so much that when I draw back on an elk, no matter how amped up I am, I know that I'm going to anchor in the right spot. I know that my sight housing is going to be centered on my peep, just because that's all muscle memory and it happens natural now. And if you don't have that, like you said, that adrenaline is just, you said 60 yards. The average shot on my elk a couple seasons ago was 7 yards. I think my average shot for my lifetime on elk is about 30 yards. And an elk comes in with its head back screaming, 800-pound animal just appears out of nowhere. And all of a sudden he's standing in front of you and you have a split second to draw, guess the range, arrange it, and execute a good shot. Especially if it's, your one opportunity you're going to get that season. There's a lot of pressure. A lot of adrenaline there.
Damn, man, they look like a wild beast when they come in like that. When you talk about savagery, that thing comes in to kick ass, and he looks it, and it's a wild thing to see. You haven't lived. There's a couple. I was telling our producer that you haven't lived till you've been through divorce court, but you haven't lived until you've seen an elk come in stomping and destroying and everything around it. It is a wild thing. You want to take your kid out and have a good time. Screw the go-karts. Take your kid on an elk hunt and watch that. I mean, you talk about feeling alive. And when you're in the presence of something that is living in that way, that lives out in brutal nature, and it comes in with a death wish, it doesn't care. It's going to kill or be killed. To witness that and to feel the vibe, or la onda in Spanish, is something that you can't reproduce. And I got to commend you, man, that you found a way. I just sold a restaurant in Mexico that I had for 10 years. I was out spearfishing and I met this guy, a Chilean guy, and he came from Santiago, a very well-to-do family, and all he wanted to do was spearfish and surf. And so he became a dive master, and then he started taking people out on spearfishing trips and started a charter. But he's 55 years old, and the guy has so many hours in and on the water that it's just insane. Like, a marlin swimming by him is just a day in the life. And I always commend people because it's a difficult thing to do. Right? It's a difficult thing to succeed in a way that you have in this niche spot. And it's in an area where the market isn't as developed. So I really commend you for finding a way to navigate this in a way that it's produced so much fruit for you.
No, and I appreciate that. I've been so incredibly blessed, and timing has been, like a lot of things. It's just I've been in the right place at the right time. I had opportunities as a young person to fail over and over and over and develop a strategy for success. And then, an online course. In 2016, there were no hunting online courses. We look now and there's an online course every time you turn around, and every other ad on Facebook and Instagram is an online course. But there wasn't. We published a magazine and realized, hey, print is not the future. How do we take this? How do we take content and give it to people in a way that A, is relevant and valuable to them, and B, that we can capitalize on? And the light bulb for an online course came on. And that, I mean, to have the experiences that I've had, to have the successes in a calling contest and have a little bit of credibility, and then to see an opportunity there. There were so many things that came together, and I was just so incredibly blessed to be able to do that. And I truly love seeing other people succeed. And so that, I love more than anything getting an email from somebody and saying, hey, I went through your online course, or I went to your seminar, I did this, and I followed what you said to do, and I shot my first elk last year. And that for me is such an incredible reward that I'm fueled by other people's passion for hunting and their successes.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of dead shit because of you, Corey. I can tell you that. There's a lot. There is a lot of full freezers because of you. I think you've killed more stuff than smallpox, man, and I really congratulate you on that. Hey, tell people where they can find your online course. Tell people what it is and how it's going to get them to be more successful in the field.
Yeah, so the online course, it's actually at outdoorclass.com. And there are courses on mule deer hunting, on backcountry survival, on cooking big game. And that's where the University of Elk Hunting, my online course is as well. And it starts you at the beginning. If you've never elk hunted before, it'll walk you through how to get tags, how to get in shape, you don't need to be doing bicep curls in the mirror to kill elk. It focuses on, hey, your legs need to be strong, your shoulders, your back, your core. And it gives some examples of what you can do to be in better shape. Gear, it talks about gear, a lot of preparation type stuff, scouting, e-scouting, how to find areas to hunt when you're sitting there on X or Google Earth. And then it gets into the meat and potatoes. When you're on the ground, on the mountain, how do you find elk in the moment? How do you call elk in? What happens when elk aren't responding to calls? What are some alternate things that you can do? And then it gets into post-success and, tracking an elk after you shoot it. I really attribute a lot of our success to being able to track an animal after the shot, because a lot of people shoot at animals and unfortunately lose them. And we don't lose very many elk, and it's not always because we make great shots every time, but it's because we've just had enough experience. So I share that, tracking them, following a blood trail, field processing, how to take care of an 800-pound animal in the field, and then how to pack it out. So it's really probably the most comprehensive hunting course, particularly focused on elk. But I think there's a lot of value in hunting other animals as well in that course. So you can just go to outdoorclass.com and sign up. It's like $59 to sign up for all of that information. And I really think that it's probably the most valuable thing you can do is invest in your knowledge. And a lot of knowledge comes through experience. But if you don't have experience, it's a really great place to start. So
what's next for you, man? You're going to go back and I find it funny that you got friends at these calling competitions. They hate to see you. So what's next for you, man? Are you going to compete again? Are you developing anything else for the market? What's on your plate?
Yeah. So, we're constantly evolving from the competition side. I said, if my kids, if we ever get in the same category at the contest and I go up against one of them, I'll retire. And I'm getting pretty close to that. My youngest son won the youth division last year, and I honestly and truly feel he would have won the professional division. He's that good. So I can't wait to get up on the stage and go head to head with them. Not because I want to beat them, but because I want them to kind of take over the flag and carry it forward. So I'll still go, and I do have a lot of great friends there, and there are some incredible elk callers. There's a couple in particular that help fuel that competitive side of me, because they're good enough that they beat me every once in a while, and it makes me want to go back and compete. So I'll stay involved in that. From a product standpoint, yeah, we're working on some pretty cool stuff that hopefully in the next 12 months we're going to start getting pretty aggressive with, and cool stuff coming from that.
Well, hey, brother, I really enjoy talking to you. I hope to share a campfire with you sometime. I got a lot to learn from a guy like you, and so does everyone else. Thanks for coming on The World's Most Interesting, and I hope you have a successful elk season, and that you're eating backstrap here in the fall.
Brady, I sure appreciate it. Can't thank you enough for the invite.
You're a good man, brother. I'll dance at your wedding. Adios. Have a good one.